that is worth living. One filled with glory and riches, but one filled with lust. A life worth living is not always seen in the books people read. Being glorified like Achilles is not as great as it seems, and being in love or lusting over someone like Paris is not as wonderful as it is portrayed. Those men did not get the satisfaction in the end that they were looking for when they started their life journey of lust and glory. On the other hand, there were people like Odysseus and Penelope and Theseus whom strive to live lives of honor and love, the love that lasts and has meaning behind it. There are two different directions that one may take in life. One like Achilles and Paris, which is living for themselves, or one like Odysseus and Theseus, living for honor and love and honesty. There are different types of good lives to live. A life of love, honesty, and honor. It is not common or easy to find someone who lives with all these three attributes. People often mistake a great life as living in the spotlight and being loved by many. But a life well lived is one loving others. Love others even in their weakest points, especially when they are living life in sin. John 13:34. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Honesty builds trust in relationships and people who are not expected to become friends, people who live in secret. Relationships built on lies are ones that will crumble and fall. Honor is the word of true heroes. It belongs to someone that has high esteem and respect. Love, honesty, and honor, the three greatest qualities one can have in life. A life filled with glory, fame, and being praised for your greatness is often wanted by many people. Achilles, the great warrior of the Trojan War, wanted all the glory he could have. He was known throughout all of Greece for his bravery and strength. He was known as a godlike man, one that was feared by many other men. He had all the fame he could have, yet there was still a longing for more honor and glory. His desire was never fulfilled, and there was always a want for more. Is there a point where he could have been fulfilled and happy with the glory he had, or was there always going to be a longing for more? Achilles is described as murderous in doing. Achilles' greatest moment in his life, or so he believed to be the greatest, was a time in which he defeated his greatest opponent in war, Hector. He battled this man with all his strength, and in the end he was a champion. He took his enemy's motionless body and strapped him to his chariot, dragging the lifeless corpse around in the dirt and dust. Later in the war, after thinking he had won, he was ruined and killed, being shot into his point. He was sent down to Hades, the land of the dead, and was there for the rest of eternity. Odysseus, whom was later visiting hell, asked Achilles what he regretted, and Achilles said that he would have rather lived on earth, being the poorest man alive, than to stay down in Hades and rot there for the rest of eternity. Was there really a necessity behind all his doings, if in the end he was going to be killed and sent to the god of death? There were no prizes in the end, so everything he had ever done to be loved was only ever done in vain. Achilles lived a life of self-glorification instead of living in honor or love. Paris, the man who started the war of the Trojans, was a man that lived with passion. He only wanted to have beautiful Helen for himself, so he took what he saw when he had the chance, and the war started because he took something that did not belong to him. Helen was known as the most beautiful woman in Greece, known as the radiance of women. That was why she belonged to the king, the man whom he needed the best. The passion Paris had to love Helen was uncontrollable, or so he thought, so he did what he thought was best for himself. The love, as one might say, that was between Paris and Helen should not have been called love at all. The only thing that could be seen between them was lust, a fake love only focused on the outward appearance, not on the heart. Menelaus, the man whom Paris took Helen from, was furious, and therefore the war of the Trojans and Greeks started. Menelaus stalked like a beast up and down the lines. Where could he catch a glimpse of magnificent Paris? Not a single Trojan, none of their famous allies could point out Paris to battle-hungry Menelaus. Not that they would hide him out of friendship, even if somebody saw him. The end results of following those impulses were death and destruction of men who had families and loved ones. There were mournings and losses of people who had nothing to do with the reason the war started. Yet Paris' decision affected thousands, if not millions of people. Paris and Helen are often praised for their love, but it was not true love. It was a selfish, lustful love, not one to be envied. A life that is often praised is that of Odysseus, a man who did everything he could to get back to his wife, his love. He and his men went through storms, got trapped in the home of a giant, and after losing his men, Odysseus got trapped on the island of a goddess, whom was known as one of the most beautiful women on earth. Yet he resisted the temptation and finally made it home to find his own home filled with suitors for his wife, because he was thought to be dead. His wife, in all her beauty, prolonged the process of finding a suitor because of her faith in her husband and the feeling she had that he was alive. My lords, hear me, suitors indeed. You commandeered this house to feast and drink in day and night. My husband being long gone, long out of mind, you found no justification for yourselves, none except your lust to marry me. The suitors were anxious and impatient for the choosing of whom may be the new husband of Penelope. But Odysseus was a man who stared death in the face and still kept on living his life, striving to get home to his woman, his lover. He lived for love, and he did things that required strength, honor, and dignity to get back to his wife, Penelope. Odysseus and Penelope had the love and honor for one another that all should have. Ephesians 5:33. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. They had the love that all should strive to have in marriage and even in normal everyday lives, a love filled with honesty and honor. The life of Antigone, the grieving sister of two dead brothers, is one to look upon due to her honor towards her family. She was demanded to never bury her brother, Polynices, due to the fact that he was a coward and a terrorist in war. The body of Polynices, who died miserably, why a citywide proclamation, rumor has it, forbids anyone to bury him, even mourn him. She was not given the justice of burying, let alone mourn her long-lost brother. She had also been through the pain of watching her father kill himself, while her mother was also killing herself. Her father married her mother, yet little did he know that when he was a child, he was destined, if not cursed, to marry his own mother. Think of our own father died, hated, his reputation in ruins, driven on by crimes he brought to light himself, to gouge his eyes out with his own hands. Then mother, his mother and wife, both in one, mutilating her life in a twisted noose. And last are two brothers dead in a single day, both shedding in their own blood. Poor suffering boys battling out their common destiny hand to hand. A father, mother, and both brothers were lost in short amounts of time. She had to live her life alone with her sister under the command from her overpowering Uncle Creon. And she was not given the right to bury her brother after all the pain she went through. Yet she did what she thought was right and honorable. Theseus, the slayer of the Minotaur, was a man who was highly praised. He saved many children from going into a maze in the home of the Minotaur and being slain. He lived a life of honor by saving all those children from the death they were doomed to have. He was, and still is, seen as a hero and a savior. He was, but not many look into his life with detail. He fell in love with a woman there named Ariadne, and was said to have taken her to his homeland and married her. But is this true? He is also said to have taken her, impregnated her, and left her on an island due to the fact that the storm, which was tearing the ship, was discomforting. He left her with his men and the ship, and the women on the island. He left with his men and the ship, and the woman on the island she was left upon took care of her and tried to console her by counterfeiting letters and saying them in Theseus. She soon died before going into labor, killing the child as well. Theseus returned a year later to take his woman, but only found great disappointment. He left a huge sum of money to those who helped his lover and told them to make a sacrifice. Theseus was an honorable man, and it can be seen in the bravery he used to save those children. And he also lived a life of love, as seen in the way he cared and did what he thought to be best for his wife and child. Love is a way of life. It brings joy and light to areas that seem to have no end to darkness. Love a man even in his sin, for that is the semblance of divine love, and the highest love on earth. Love all God's creation in the whole and every grain of sand in it. Love every leaf, every ray of God's light. Love all the animals, love the plants, love everything. If you love everything, you will perceive it. You will perceive the divine mystery in things. Once you perceive it, you will begin to comprehend it better every day. And you will come at last to love the whole world with an all-embracing love. Life without the love of others or the love of God is not a true life. One cannot live in the darkness of hate while living sanely. There are dark thoughts and unending pains that go on throughout life. An example of true love is the love that Christ had for the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus was known as a Jew, and in those times, Jews did not interact with Samaritans. But Jesus did. He went on to a well where a woman was sitting, collecting her water. He asked for her to get her some water, and she replied by saying that he was a Jew and she was a Samaritan, and Jews should not interact with them. He told her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you the living water. The woman, not knowing who he was, told him that he had no livestock to give water to, and also had nothing to draw the water out of the well with. He replied with, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. She asked to receive this water, thinking it was a physical water and that she would never need to fill up again. But he said to go fetch her husband, knowing quite well she had no husband, and she told him that she had none. He said, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. She told him that she now knew he was a prophet, and she knew the Messiah was coming soon to seek and save the lost. He answered her with this, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. Jesus, knowing she was an adulteress with many men in her life, loved this woman and showed her the way of life. He showed her the true meaning of life, and that no matter the circumstances of one's life, he was going to love anyone and everyone. An honest life is a life worth living. Without truth, there would be no such thing as relationship. A relationship between 2 people will not survive if it is built with lies and unfaithfulness. The relationships of Samson and Delilah in the book of Judges is a relationship built on lies and can be used as an example of what is not wanted and what should be an honest relationship. Samson had been known to be very powerful, and the Philistines did not like him, but Samson fell in love with one named Delilah. She was sent by the leaders of Philistines to find out the secrets of Samson's power. She was told to report to the leaders when she had found them out. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, see if you can lure him into showing you the secret of great strength and how we can overpower him so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. Samson was living with her, believing that she loved him, but she was lying to him. She was not the only liar in the relationship, though. Samson lied to her multiple times about where and how he had his strength. He did not want to reveal himself, yet if he believed they were in love, should there not have been an established truth? Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? That is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. The relationship, which had a foundation of lies, ended up in ruins and crashed down along the city of Philistia. When Samson pulled down the pillars he was tied to by the Philistines. A life of honor, which is living with high esteem and being someone respectable, is one that will bring praise. Now living in an honorable life, just to be praised, would not be counted as true honor. Honesty and honor come hand in hand. A life of honor can only be done if one is honest. An honorable man puts others above himself. When you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may have you back, so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid as the resurrection of the righteous. Not expecting anything, only wishing the best for others, and putting others in a higher place than one who have put himself, that is an honorable life. Altogether, the lives of heroes, adventurers, and warriors are all praised. Why is it that all these lives are the ones that are most wanted? The lives people are given are never enough, even to those who are the ones being lifted up. They only want more and are never satisfied. I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so that they can see it's not the answer. God gave us lives to enjoy and glorify Him with them, not complain and wish for more than we already have. A life of fame and glory can only be satisfied for so long. There is a time where someone may have everything they used to wish for, and once they hit that point, they feel as though they are empty. Love, honesty, and honor are the foundations of a good life. They will bring people closer together and build stronger relationships. Colossians 2:10. In Christ you have been brought to fullness. He is the head over every power and authority. The fullness of life is found in the Holy Spirit, not in the light of self-glorification or living in the limelight as celebrities do.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pardue. Give me a moment. We will begin with our first question. All right, thank you very much. I would like to begin by just looking at the prevalence of the examples in your paper of the relationship between man and woman as a sphere in which honor is shown. I tried to look quickly through here to see how, I think almost half of your examples are illustrating a life worth living and a life of honor in the context of the marital relationship. And particularly Odysseus and Penelope striving so long to maintain their connection as man and wife and to return to that. Penelope on the one hand resisting the suitors, Odysseus on the other hand continuing to strive to return to his home. Is there a reason why it is the marital relationship or the relationship between man and woman that is the context in which so much of the honor of life is displayed?
I believe that in a marriage it takes two people to work together to have an honorable relationship. And so I think in a marital relationship you can see much honor if it is true, because it takes two people working together separately. It takes them working separately and together as well. So I think in the relationships there is the most honor that will be had.
Mm-hmm. And I was trying to look at your example. I guess you would use the example of Achilles as a military example, but that example I think is primarily negative in your assessment of the poverty of what he's looking for there. Is that correct? Okay. Are there any other areas of life besides the marital relationship in which you see the prospect of honor being so clearly displayed?
Well, I think it could be used in any area in life. For one example, it could be a child to their parents as the, I can't remember what the verse is, but it says, children obey your parents and honor them in the Lord. So just children honoring their parents is another way of showing honor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I guess the example you gave of Antigone was, in fact, a positive with regard to her love for her brother, right? Okay. And so you do use the family example there, and also throughout the paper, in looking at a life worth living, you come back to the theme of honor so much as kind of one of the real characteristics of what makes a life worth living is a life lived with honor. And most of the examples that you give as to how honor is displayed, I think it almost be safe to say all of them, are how one interacts with the other people in their life, whether it be the marital relationship, the family relationship. if that's the case, do you think that honor can really only be had in a social life? Or on the other side, is it really impossible to have honor in your life if you live in a solitary fashion? If you are really just living by yourself, does honor really not apply to that situation? Because you don't have a lot of relationships with others. And so in that way, is honor primarily a virtue that is manifested in how we interact with the other people around us?
Well, I feel like for the most part, yes, it is. It is about how we treat others and the people around us. But I think even when you're with yourself, you can honor the Lord in your actions. You don't always have to be around people in order to make the right decision or be honorable to yourself and to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it seems as though the actions we make that are not right are with and around other people.
Mm-hmm. Can you say any more as to why honor seems to be associated so much with how we interact with other people rather than more our solitary behavior?
I believe that when we are being honorable, we are showing the light of God and through our actions. So therefore, I mean, you can't necessarily show the light to yourself. So that's why when you are with other people, you are able to spread the word through your honor towards them and towards God.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a lot of solitary activities that we can do. I mean, we can read books by ourselves. We can, work on finding new mathematical theorems by ourselves. We can do all sorts of creative crafting projects by ourselves. And there's a lot of solitary, very rich human activity. But would you say that living a life of that nature, if that's the kind of the continual character of your life throughout the most of your life, you come to the end of that life and say, did I live an honorable life? Well, not a lot of evidence for that.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to be able to look back and say, did I do the right thing throughout my life? And was I able to glorify the Lord through what I was doing? And was I able to honor myself and the Lord, even though nobody was looking and nobody was watching? I was still, if somebody was looking and watching, I was still able to honor them.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I've known a lot of people that were very eager to know that they are doing the right thing, but yet they don't do much except the right thing. And and other people who have lived very aggressively and who, on the other hand, have not always been completely unquestionable in their activities. I mean, people who go out and start businesses, people who run for a big political office, your Napoleon type peoples who, they do big things, but it's pretty easy to look at their lives and find fault with them. And on the other hand, I know a lot of Christians who are very you might say, very small lives. They don't really try to do much, but they are very careful about making sure that whatever they do, nobody can find criticism with them. And I don't know if that's necessarily a sort of contrast that needs to be there. I mean, if necessarily people who get out there and do big things are going to kind of get themselves tangled up in kind of compromising situations. But a lot of the emphasis that you have in your paper is that a life worth living comes about through honorable moral behavior. And is there a necessity also in order to do, you might say, difficult things, things where you make big gambles and try to do things that are on kind of a big scale? I mean, most of the heroes that we talk about in life are people who did that. The head of armies, the big national leaders. The kind of the big heroes. Are we living a little too cautiously when we are always concerned about keeping our life in a state so that nobody will be able to look at it and say, I think he's doing something that's not right.
I kind of feel like there's a balance between, going to be the general or commander, the head of the ward, whatever that is, or, taking everything very cautiously and not really doing anything. I think it depends on a person's personality on whether or not they are going to go out there. Like I said before, you don't have to be around people or do something great in order to have an honorable life. But it's kind of a slippery slope when you are something great and you are looked upon by many people and you're living an honorable life, because then it becomes all about the praise, and it becomes about people looking upon you and putting you on a pedestal, and then it changes your heart and it ends up not being the right kind of life.
Mm-hmm. If you Emily Pardue, you decide you're going to go out and try to become, first ballerina of the San Francisco Ballet, and you really put your time into that, and you get in the lights, and you've done this kind of big amazing thing people look at. If you knew that people seeing you in that position could criticize you and say, you've put too much time into this, or you forgot about, you were not there at your father's birthday party because there was a show, and you're not a good daughter. You do stuff, people criticize you. Do you think that having the concern about always making sure you're doing the right moral thing could keep you from doing great things?
Yeah, I do believe that if you are always trying to, say please other people by showing up to the birthday party, or I actually missed my brother's graduation because I had a dance recital, so.
Oh, wow. Didn't even know.
But yeah, I don't think, you're not going to make it very far if you want to be a dancer, if you want to be a great pianist. You're going to have to miss some things in order to further that, I'm totally blanking on the word. Yeah, you're gonna have to miss some things in order to grow in your success if that's what you're looking for.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
Beautiful paper, Emily. I thought your example was very interesting. I was thinking about your example with Paris and Berlin, and how it's this, big romantic idealized love, but it's really not that great. And you talk about how instead we should kind of have a love that God shows us, an unconditional and honest love. I was wondering what your, opinion or analysis is on between Menelaus and Helen's love, because Menelaus was willing to go and start a war just to get his eloping wife back. So do you see that as a grand gesture of what love is supposed to be, or is there some faults with their relationship as well?
That's kind of hard because nobody really knows what his full potential was behind that. He could have been going to save her and starting that war so he could have his love back if he really did love her, or he could just have wanted her because she was a war prize and she was just something that he wanted to keep in his possession because it was just one of his prizes.
Okay, so basically, we don't know because it's hard to understand what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And then I thought the example you gave of Samson and Love was really interesting, and how the relationship is based on lies, and that was not healthy. But if you were to go back and redo it, would you have Samson tell the truth and kind of violate what God told him to do about, telling him about cutting his hair and taking away his strength? Or how would you approach it? Like, what would be the perfect relationship to you?
Well, that's kind of hard. The relationship, I don't know, it didn't really seem like they were, I don't know how to say this, meant to be together, I guess you could say, just because, Samson was sent the Philistines and Samson, they weren't colliding, like, Samson was supposed to beat them, but then he fell in love with one, so it was almost like a forsaken kind of love. And Delilah, she was only sent to destroy him as well. So I don't really know if there could have been a true love behind it at all.
Okay, so I have two questions. So, really brief paper. I liked all the different relationships you brought up. But so you mentioned the story of Ariadne and Theseus, and I was wondering because I really love the version you have here, but there's other versions where he tricked her off to leave the ship and then left her, and then Dionysus ended up coming and marrying her. So I wondered if you think that if he had done that dishonorable thing by leaving her, if his actions in killing the Minotaur outweighed that, because we have all these with people like Hamilton and Jefferson who did great things for our country, but they were also dishonorable in that they did dishonorable things as well. And we had like Augustine and Paul who did dishonorable things originally, but then came to God. So I wondered how you think that doing honorable things can outweigh that.
Well, I think a lot of times the story of him and Ariadne, it's overlooked and nobody really notices it. So I think sometimes, it could have been outweighed by the fact that he defeated the Minotaur and saving all those children. But at the same time, it was still a dishonorable act by leaving her or dishonoring her in the other stories. So I think, I don't know, it could go either way.
And then my second question is, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but you seemed very adamant that Antigone was right in trying to bury her brother. So were you the one voting pro and all those?
I was not.
I really enjoyed your paper. Thank you. All right. So you say in your second to last paragraph, honesty and honor can be done. A life of honor can only be done if one is honest. I was wondering if you could expound on that just a little further. Why are honesty and honor so inexplicably linked?
I feel like in order to live an honorable life, you can't go and tell a bunch of lies because you're not honoring the Lord, because that's first of all a sin, and you're not honoring others because you're not being truthful with them. And when you are honest, I believe you are being an honorable person. So I think.
Yeah, so when you were bringing up examples of positive and negative examples in your paper concerning honor and love and honesty. And your negative examples were Achilles and Paris, and your positive examples were Odysseus and Theseus. Speaking of Odysseus then, and you just mentioned the connection between honesty and honor, I thought he was known as a trickster and a very dishonest person. So how does that correlate to him as the positive example?
Actually, a good question. He was known as a trickster in order to get out of those tricky situations, and he tricked the Cyclops in order to save him and his men's lives. And so I think lying is a sin and tricking is a sin, but he did it in order to save himself and his men. So I think.
So the extenuating circumstances removed some of that guilt.
So is there such thing as a mercy lie, like the lie a parent tells a child when a pet dies, like, oh, they ran away to a better place or stuff like that? So is honesty a requirement? Must you be honest in all things, or are there extenuating circumstances where you are allowed to tell a fib?
Personally, I don't agree with any sort of lie. If a pet dies, you should just tell the kid that the pet died. It's gonna break their heart, but life, and I don't think that it's okay at all. Even though I just told you he did it to save his men. I think. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of hard to answer. I don't really have an answer. Yeah.
So use the life of Antigone to demonstrate honor. And you said at the end of the paragraph about her that she did what was honorable, or what she thought was right and honorable, by burying her brother. So do you think, I guess, she went against the law, and most people would consider that dishonorable. But I guess, is it kind of based on your own view of what you're doing that makes it right and honorable, or?
Yeah, I think she wanted to honor her family, and she wanted to do what I'm guessing she thought her brother would do if she had been in the same predicament as he was. So I think she was doing what she thought was honorable, even though it went against the law, and it wasn't honoring the king or the gods. It was what she thought was right.
So then is honor a matter of perspective, as in like, if Katie thought it would be right, so she did it was right, and you say that's honorable, but if Creon then lost her way because she broke the law, is that also honorable? Like, is honor a matter of perspective? Is it completely subjective to someone's life? Like I tell my kid that Santa exists, but it's for a good reason, or Odysseus, blinds the guy in a Cyclops because he's saving men, he's doing something wrong. From the Cyclops perspective, that's not an honorable thing to do, it's lying. So is honor and honor and glory or whatever, is that a matter of, is it objective or subjective?
I would have to say that it is. I think there's different times in when whether or not what you say is honorable is not honorable, or the opposite. I think when it's against her brothers, I think that really was an honorable thing to do because it was her brother, it was her blood. But I mean, if you're gonna say I think doing drugs is the right thing to do, that's kind of crossing the line a little bit. I think there's a point where following the law is going to be the right thing to do.
If someone was to know that they would have the most impact or effect on the world by devoting and sacrificing their life to one thing, their life would have very little pleasure in it, very little enjoyment of the world around them, but they knew that they could have the most impact on people for God if they did this one specific thing and devoted their whole life to that. Would it be more honorable to live a rounded life or to sacrifice everything? Because to me that seems more honorable, to sacrifice everything so that you would be able to have the most impact, even though that wouldn't really be a rounded life.
I think if you know that you are good at something, that you can honor God in that, then I think you should go for it. I think you should dedicate your life to that. I'm not saying every second of every day you want to do that. I think there are times when you can step back and take a break. But I think that if you know you can honor God in that, I think you should dedicate your life to that. Yes, sir.
I like to go back to the example of Achilles. He's particularly curious with regard to the attainment of glory, and the little quote that you give about him being down in Hades saying, you know what, I would much rather be just a poor plowhand up on the surface of the earth than being down here in Hades and having this great glory that I have. Even though Achilles lived for glory and gave up his life for glory, in Hades he really seems to speak very poorly of it. And I'm not sure how much you're in your paper connecting glory with honor. And can you compare or contrast what a life of honor is from what a life of glory is, how those are similar and different?
A lot of times I think glory can be looked upon as bad. In Achilles' life, he was looked upon as he was put on the pedestal and he was looked upon as great and he was worshipped by many men. And I think sometimes glory can be used in the wrong way. While honor, your actions are supposed to glorify God, and they're supposed to give him glory and have him put on the pedestal and put higher above everything else and have men worship him. So I think that, yeah.
Okay, so could you kind of then just give us your definition of honor and your definition of glory?
Honor is giving glory to God, and glory is having the glory for yourself.
Okay, so honor is basically the same thing as glory, but it's a glory that you are going to then pass on to God by the acknowledgement of his worth of that glory.
Right.
And so then you could say someone who, I mean, you use a lot of the relationship examples in your paper, that someone who is very honorable to his spouse or her spouse, that person gains a sort of glory by doing that. But by living under the desire of honoring God and giving that glory to God, it then becomes what you would call honor.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to reflesh out your understanding of the relation of these two terms and apply it to the particular example of marriage, where a man and wife who, long marriage together, faithfully attending to one another and treating each other with all due respect. You get to the end of that life and you say, was that a glorious marriage? And you would say, yes, that is a glorious marriage. And if the two take that glory and then say, we give it to God, that is what you call an honorable marriage. Okay, all right, thank you for clarification.
All right, so a lot of this paper you were kind of telling us how to live a good life. And especially near the end, you said love, honesty, and honor are the foundations of a good life. I was wondering if faith in God is also part of the good life, because you didn't really mention that very much.
Yeah.
Or the good life comes before the faith in God, because you didn't really mention the faith in God at all in this paper.
I think by having a faith in God, you can live a life of honesty and honor and love. I think, yes, even if you don't love God or you don't have a faith in him, I think you can be honorable, or actually no, I don't think, I think you have to have a faith in God in order to live a good life and have those three aspects.
If, in your paper you say, if you would live an honorable life, you will receive praise, or something to that effect. So, if a soldier is in battle and they get ambushed, and one covers the retreat of all the rest, and he dies, the headline most likely reads, "Soldier dies in ambush." The only people that know what he did will be the people he saved. Is that not right?
Yeah, I totally think that would be an honorable life. You don't have to be known by everyone in order to live an honorable life. I think that he did what he thought was right and he saved those men. So I think even though he's not known by everyone else, those couple men that he did save, he's known by them and lives an honorable life.
So you say there are different types of good lives to live, a life of love, honesty, and honor. It is not common or easy to find someone who lives with all three attributes. You say that in your second paragraph. And then at the end, you say love, honesty, and honor are the foundations of a good life. So I was wondering, so do you need all three to have a good life, or can you have a good life with just love, honesty, or honor, or do you need all three? Or does all three just give you a good life? I'm kind of wondering if you need all three, or do you need one, or the other?
I think it's pretty hard to come by someone who lives with all three of those. I mean, there definitely are people out there who have all three. But I think if you have one or two of those, you're still living a good life and you're doing it for God.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to get back to the very lovely Father Zosima quote that you gave, and I'll read the quote again. It says, "Love a man even in his sin, for that is a semblance of divine love, and is the highest love on earth. Love all God's creation. Love the whole and every grain of sand in it. Love every leaf, every ray of God's light. Love all the animals, love the plants, and love everything. If you love everything, you will perceive it. You will perceive the divine mystery in things. Once you perceive it, you will begin to comprehend it better every day, and you'll come at last to love the whole world with an all-embracing love." And here, a lot of the examples, as I said before, a lot of the examples that you gave is the love of people throughout this. Could you comment more on examples of this sort of all-embracing love that are not necessarily directed towards people, but perhaps the rest of creation?
Well, loving what God has given us is what we're called to do, and we are called to take care of animals, but we're also called to use animals and the plants that provide food for us, and every other thing in creation, it brings glory to God, so therefore we should love it.
Mm-hmm. Can you say more, just thinking of your own experience with dance? You love dance, and you put yourself a lot into that. And you probably, actually I don't know enough about you to know whether or not, but you probably don't love electronics very much. I suspect that that's not been an avenue that you put yourself into a lot, and don't have a love for that. I suspect maybe if you did, you would. Now, this idea of loving everything, it seems a little impossible. I mean, you've cultivated a very intense love of one activity, and is it reasonable to be able to think that we're going to love, you're going to love electronics, you're going to love botany, you're going to love biology, you're going to love marine wildlife. I mean, there's so many things in life to love, and it seems we can only wrap our mind around just so much of it, or even develop the experience that allows us to love it. I mean, one nice thing about food is that it seems to be one of those things we all kind of share in common. It makes for a good conversation. Trying to carry on a conversation with me about how wonderful dance is will be a non-starter, all right? Is it really impossible to love a lot of creation given the smallness of who we are?
Yeah, I don't think we as humans have the capability to love everything. Personally, I don't really like cats, so I can't say I love them. So I don't love everything. I don't think we weren't given the heart or the capability to be able to love everything. If we did, I believe that it would be great. So.
Thank you. Other questions? Thanks very much, Ms. Pardue.